We're back. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Social media is simultaneously the best and worst thing that has ever happened to creatives, whether you're a musician, a filmmaker, an artist, whatever it is. There has never been a time that is better than right now to make a living from your creative skills because of social media and just like the internet as a whole. It's so easy, like the fact that I have friends scattered across the globe is insane. Where like even 15 years ago, that was something that wasn't super common. And so the fact that we now have these platforms and this leverage as creatives to reach such a large audience is something that's obviously never happened before. And the opportunity there is insane. However, it is simultaneously the worst thing that has happened to creatives, because not only has there never been a time where you've been able to reach so many people to consume your work, you've also obviously never been able to consume so many other people's work, which inevitably leads to a lot of bad things as a creative. And for a lot of us, leads to us either A, never creating anything at all, or B, creating things but never wanting to share them because for whatever reason we don't think they're good enough and whatnot. And so today I just want to talk about that. I want to talk about my experience with that, and sort of why we do the things that we do without realizing it, and really just kind of like how to overcome it and actually use the internet and social media and everything around us to our advantage, rather than being a slave to the algorithm and a never-ending pit of despair that is comparison as a creative. All right, so the main reason why social media is bad as a creative, it really comes down to, I feel, three things, which are comparison, not feeling like we're good enough, and the idea of being a perfectionist. But really, to understand like why these are bad, I think we need to understand why they actually happen, like what actually causes us to compare ourselves to other people, why we feel like we're not good enough, and why we feel like we need to be a perfectionist. And I think at the root of all of this, one of the main reasons why we do compare ourselves to others, why we think we're not good enough, why we're perfectionists, is because when we go on social media, and chances are you guys probably follow a lot of creators or people you look up to, and you look up to them for inspiration, for motivation, or because you think like what they create is really cool. But what happens is inevitably we see that and we immediately feel bad because we think that we can't create that. Like we don't have the skills to do that. We don't think we can get, that many followers, that many views, or we can't make that edit, or, like how did they think of the script for this video, or how do they think of that idea? Like I would have never thought of that. But the problem with that is what you don't see online is the effort that goes unseen behind the scenes, or everything leading up to it. There's like that quote, and it's super cliche, but it's something like an overnight success is 10 years in the making, or something like that. And, people joke about it, whatever, but there is so much truth to that idea, because first of all, social media as a whole is relatively new. And second of all, there are so many people that have put in so much work before they decide to even step foot into the, social media content creation landscape. I got a comment a few weeks ago. It was really funny. Like they said something upon the lines of like, it's crazy to see how fast your content has improved. And obviously like, I'm very grateful. And like, I'm very appreciative of people complimenting my work, but I couldn't help but think how like, not funny it was, but weird it was that this person, saw my content, saw that I'm, where am I from, Boston? Saw that I'd only been posting for a few years and been like, wow, like look how far they've come. And don't get me wrong, I have grown a ton as a creative in the last, few months, few years definitely. But I got my first camera like 10 years ago. And I've been making videos literally since like 2016. Like I remember getting my first camera and going out like literally every day to just like go shoot with friends and like try all these different styles and techniques. And I obsessed over YouTube, and like I followed Peter McKinnon before he had like 500,000 subscribers, and I've been following Casey Neistat since like the first daily vlog. Like I've been in the scene for a long time, and this isn't meant for me to sound like cool or whatever, but more so saying you don't know what you don't know. Like you don't know most people's backstory as a creative. some of these people that you're comparing yourself to might have, been in the film industry for 20 years and they've been like a gaffer, know how to light things. Or some people who, maybe pop off on TikTok and they look like they're just like prodigy artists because they've just been posting videos for 2 months, and wow, their, artwork is so amazing, but really they've been painting since they were like 9. Like, we really don't know what you don't know. And so if you are a new creative, or you're someone who's just now deciding to start that production company, or share your artwork online, or you just bought your new camera and you're super stoked about it, you're completely doing yourself a disservice by comparing yourself to these other people, because you don't know how long they've been doing what they've been doing. You don't know how much hours and how much effort that you've put in. I shared something on my story the other day, and I can't remember exactly what I said, but it basically said your favorite creators aren't more talented than you. They've just made more things than you. And I think it goes to, is very applicable to this kind of topic, because in order for you to see those people and want to be on their level or whatever, really all it means is you just got to show up long enough. Like, you can't expect to be at their level right away because you just haven't put in the work that they have put in. But at the same time, it should be motivating. Like, seeing someone at that level and knowing that a lot of the reason why they're there is from simply showing up should make it feel a lot more achievable and should actually motivate you rather than put you down. So next time you see someone's work and you're just like, God, like, I want to make that, or I wish I could be doing this, or my work's not as good as that, remind yourself that it will be. Like, you will be at that level. You will get there as long as you actually decide to post the thing that you are hesitating on posting, because that's what it takes to actually get there. So just consistently show up time after time after time. And to kind of piggyback that too, it's also remember that, like, you have to ask yourself, can I afford to ask this question? Like, are you setting realistic expectations for yourself? A lot of times we become so consumed by our dreams and what we want to accomplish or what we're going to accomplish that we start to believe that we're actually there. Like, goals that we set are things that we should be hitting like now. Don't get me wrong. It's great to have big, huge goals, but it's also equally important to slow down sometimes and actually take a step back and look at your life and where you are and what you can do, what you cannot do. And remember that to set, like, realistic expectations for yourself for the present moment. Again, like, I'm not someone who thinks that we can't all do, great things. Like, I wholeheartedly believe that, but at the same time, it's very naive to not acknowledge where you are. Like, if you've never shot a video before, it's completely unrealistic for you to think that you're just gonna like land a Hollywood blockbuster movie contract this year. Like, can it happen? Yeah, maybe. Like, the percentage is never zero, but you at the same time have to set realistic expectations, because if you don't set realistic expectations right now, you're never gonna make progress. Like, if you've never picked up a camera before and I told you to go, to make the goal to shoot a blockbuster film in Hollywood, and that's the only goal I gave you, I was like, no more goals, that's it. You wouldn't even know where to start. Like, what do you even learn? Where if you acknowledge where you were at, you're like, I have no idea how to light a video. I have no idea how to record good audio. I have no idea how to color grade. And I know I'm giving filmmaking examples here, but it applies to any sort of medium. If you don't know how to do those things, you're not going to know to learn them. But if you acknowledge where you're at and you're like, I have literally no idea how to use this camera that I just bought, that's somewhere to start. And that is somewhere you can build off of and actually improve. So it's important to set realistic expectations and actually acknowledge where you are right now. And I think the last thing that causes this sort of comparison and perfectionism and all that is comparing ourselves to the 1%. What do I mean by that? Social media makes it feel like everybody is successful, that like everybody online is just crushing it. Everyone that's ever picked up a camera is doing like, 5-6 figures a month with their production company. Every artist just has a ton of followers. They're constantly selling out work. Every musician is just like uber successful, right? And it's because of that connectivity. Like, you can DM someone, with a couple 100,000, followers, say, that might be super successful, and there's a chance that they reply to you. And I think that sort of like relativity or like connectivity with social media is very misleading, because it leads us to compare ourselves to the 1%, where if we aren't accomplishing what they're doing, we are a failure. But if you really take a step back and ask yourself, like, if you say have never posted something on Instagram and you decide that you're going to start posting daily content, and you do that for a month, and you say, I don't know, have like 500 followers, it's very easy to like put yourself down and be like, damn, I only have 500 followers. Like, what am I doing? This is just, I'm nowhere near this person I look up to. But if you stop for a second, zoom out and look at what you've done, you've realized that you've accomplished more than like 98% of people, but you're making yourself feel bad because you're comparing yourself to the 1% of people that you're behind still or whatnot. It's kind of like that idea of like, if you post 20 podcast episodes, you're in the top 1% of podcasters or something like that. Like, sure, you're no Chris Williamson, you're no Modern Wisdom, I'm assuming at that point, but you've still done more than so many other people. And I'm not saying that like your comparison to yourself, to others should be like a source of validation, but it should be a reminder of like, you have done more than you think. You just need to acknowledge it. And you need to acknowledge it by stopping comparing yourself to the 1%, like the people that you see online. Most people don't have 500,000 followers on Instagram. Most people don't even have 1,000. Like, I think if you have more than 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, you're in like, or 10,000 subscribers, you're like in the top 6% or something, or 3%. Like, that's crazy. Like, you have to remember, again, like where you're at and how far you've actually come, and not compare yourself to the 1%, because they've, again, probably been doing it for a long ass time. And they are black swans. We can't all be black swans, but we can all be people who get extraordinary results from putting in the time and effort and intentionally trying to improve. So stop comparing yourself to the 1%. They're the 1% for a reason. And you can get there, but you don't get there by comparing yourselves to them. All right, so now I want to give a little bit more like tangible advice on how to overcome these things, because I can sit here and tell you, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And that's great. And you might feel really good. Like, yeah, I got to stop doing that. But chances are in like a couple of days, you're going to start doing it again. And so I feel like it's deserving or necessary for me to give tangible advice that I've done myself that has helped me overcome this, or at least like manage it. Like, again, like as a creative comparison and always like questioning yourself and whatnot, I don't think it goes away. I think if someone says that they don't deal with it, either they are an anomaly or they're just lying. Because I'm sure there are some people out there that just don't. But I want to give you some actual tangible advice on how to overcome this. And the first thing, probably the most obvious thing, and probably the thing that you're sick of hearing, but it is to turn off your damn phone. Like, turn off social media. Get off of the platforms. A lot of times we go on these platforms and we convince ourselves that we're using it for inspiration or motivation, or we're trying to like think of ideas for shots. And like, don't get me wrong, I've done this before. I still do this sometimes, but get off of your phone. The only source of comparison that you're going to have at a large scale is social media. Like, you can scroll for 10 minutes and find 30 creators that you think are better than yourself. And that idea you thought was so good suddenly feels like shit. And it might not be shit. It just might not be, what they're doing. And you start to feel bad about it. So like, download Opal, get yourself some blockers going. Don't go on social media. Or if you do, be extremely intentional about what you're consuming, why you're consuming it. And just remind yourself that like, everyone's at their own, point in their journey, but turn off your phone. Like, go outside, touch grass, read a book, walk, journal, play a board game. I don't know, do other activities, find inspiration in other ways, because the people that you see online that are standing out, that have their own style, that are like super creative, they aren't only inspired by other people doing exactly what they're doing. Like, for example, for me, like, music is a massive source of inspiration. Like reading, like fiction, like I have so many other mediums that inspire me. And I'm super intentional with that, because in order for me to be unique, I need to be consuming what other people are not, or at least have a different combination of inspirations. I know I'm rambling here, but get off your phone. Like, seek inspiration in other ways that will make you even more unique in your own way. All right, the next piece of tangible advice is to surround yourself with other creators that are on a similar point in the journey as you are. And this is important because I think it kind of like brings things back home, right? Like, it's kind of a constant reminder of where you're at, to where you can surround yourself with people that are doing what you're doing, so they're also optimists, because to do something like share your work or seek a career as a creative, you have to be an optimist. But it also simultaneously helps you be a realist, because it reminds you like where you're at, because these people around you are all doing the same thing. Listen, I would rather learn, if I had no idea how to make any money online, for example, I would rather learn how to make money from someone teaching me how to make $1,000 than someone teaching me how to make $100,000 in a month, because $100,000 in a month is a completely different ball game, right? Like to get from 1,000 to 100,000 is completely different than going from 0 to 1,000. And so it's the same thing with like who you surround yourself with. If you're only consuming information from people that are like uber successful and are like on step 100 of their journey and you're on step 1, the value that they are able to provide for you is going to be much different than the value that you can get from other people, you know, at similar points in your journey. Obviously, it's great to have like mentors and people that have done it, because it's great to obviously avoid, you know, mistakes and whatnot when they can be avoided. But having that sort of, you know, support group around you where you just like come up together and you're all dealing with similar problems can help each other work through them, whether they're like mental struggles or mindset or actual like business things or whatnot. Like having people on the similar point in the journey as you is wildly important. And then also just like on top of that, like surrounding yourself with creatives is so important. Like there are so many, like never, like I said at the beginning, there's so much opportunity to connect with people that you would otherwise not have the opportunity to connect with because of social media. And so take advantage of it in that way. I was just having a conversation with a friend the other day who hosts like a creative retreat, and he was inviting me to it. And I was just like saying how this to me is the most important part of social media, is connecting with other people that do what you do, because it can be really lonely as a creative in the real world if you're not, you know, constantly surrounded by people doing what you do. And so if you do something like this or anything online, take advantage of that and just create a sphere of people that, you know, you can support, that can support you, and you can like bounce ideas off of and just have a great, you know, circle to support one another. All right, the last thing that I want to give advice on as far as, you know, dealing with these struggles as a creative is to focus on actions and not outcomes. Regardless of how hard you try, once you put something out there into the world, you know, you're done with the work, you put it out there, it's out of your control. How people receive it is not up to you. How people feel about it is not up to you. How many views or likes or comments or shares that it gets is not up to you. You can make the most amazing piece of work and you can be like, this is my magnum opus. This is the best thing I've ever created. And it will and could flop, right? Like no one might like it. Like maybe people like it, but they never see it because the algorithm or whatever. I personally feel like I've made some of the best videos of my content creator career in the last month. And my account on Instagram has taken a dump and has absolutely shit on my videos. And it's so easy to be overwhelmed like that and make it and feel like you're just not doing the right thing, and that, you know, there's like, that you're just like, you're doing the wrong thing. And I think that comes from, you know, this lack of delayed gratification and wanting like the immediate fix. You know, like internet social media gurus will tell you that like if your videos are flopping, then they're just bad. And like you need to optimize for this, and this. And I think that that's true in some cases, but also there also has to, in my opinion, be this sense of delayed gratification where you have to balance that authenticity and that, you know, strategy to also like have videos perform. Regardless, end of the day, what I'm trying to get at is this fact that like you need to focus and be proud of the work that you're putting in and the progress that you're making on your actions versus the outcomes, because you can't control the outcomes of your labor. You can do everything in your power up until the point that you press publish or you press share or you show your friends to maximize the likelihood of a positive reaction. But at the end of the day, you can't. And so if you're always relying on the outcomes for a sense of validation or a sense of motivation, you're never going to feel validated. You're never going to feel motivated, other than the random, you know, sprints that you get when a video does perform well or someone does like it. And as a creative, and as, like I said before, as someone who needs to just do this for a long time, you can't afford to do that. Like you can't afford to have moments of motivation and then moments of just complete, like, I don't want to do this anymore. You need to focus entirely on the actions. Use the outcomes as a guide of like, oh, people like this, or, oh, I liked making this and the people received it well. Maybe I should do it more like this. Like, it's naive to think that you should ignore the outcomes entirely. But when it comes to a sense of like motivation and a will to do something, you need to focus on actions, because that is the only thing that is in your control. I guarantee if you start, you know, making a goal sheet and the things on that goal sheet are things that you can check off at the end of the day, like write 5 scripts or film, 3 videos or whatever, like you'll be able to be much more proud of that progress because it's something that you can track and you can control than something like, hit 100,000 followers by the end of the month, because you can do everything you want to get to that point, but it's not up to you if people hit the like button, hit the follow button, or if the algorithm decides to show it to anybody other than like 5 people. So yeah, I understand that comparison and like these things are not easy. It's much easier to say and give advice than it is to actually do it. But I can promise you with 100% certainty from personal experience that if you take my advice, like the tangible advice I just gave, and apply it consistently, you will feel much more confident as a creative. You will be able to do this longer as a creative. You'll just enjoy the process so much more if you understand why you compare yourself and the reason behind it and how to actually deal with it. Because frankly, yeah, like it doesn't go away. Like I've been, again, like I said, I've been making videos for 10 years and I still compare myself all the time. I might be one of the most imposter syndrome people like ever. Like I got invited to an event at the end of April that I don't think I can probably share with you yet, but it was like the craziest thing in the world. It's the craziest thing that's ever happened to me as a creator. And like, I just immediately, when they, asked me to go to the event, I was like, why? Like me? Like seriously? Like all these other people are going and you're inviting me? And so I don't think that like that, and like eventually like I realized like, Will, you have done some things, so it's okay to like, be excited, whatever. But long story short, I don't think the comparison thing ever goes away. I think we more so kind of understand why it's happening and how to almost like use it to our advantage and use it in a way to motivate us and force us to improve and just being more intentional with what we create. I know this is a long one. I'm sorry. I had a lot to say. But I think this is a topic that is like so incredibly important. Like, God, like if there's one lesson I can take away from doing this for this long, it would be that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this week's video. If you did, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below. I super appreciate you. For those of you that have stuck around, this is probably the worst time to share this, but I just released my storyboard template and my editing preset pack if you're a Premiere Pro user to the public. It's a couple things I've been working on for like a couple months now, and I use them all the time. Literally every single video I create uses both of them. So if that's something that you guys are interested in, and basically, making the pre-production process smoother and the production process smoother, easier, more efficient, the storyboard is the best way to do that. And then if you're looking to like cut your editing time in half, check out the preset pack below. But yeah, that is all. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next week. Peace.